HOA went boating on my lake, not knowing I drain it regularly, and it's full of metal spikes. Have you ever watched a grown woman scream in 3 directions at once while sinking in a lake mud that was never meant to hold her? Because I have, and it was the most poetic thing I've seen in years. It all started on a Saturday morning, the kind that feels too peaceful, almost like the calm before something dumb happens. I was just rolling up the last drainage hose near the dock when I heard it. A low rumble, then that obnoxious puttering sound of a rented pontoon engine, and then her laugh, that wheezing, overconfident Karen laugh. It echoed across my private lake like nails down a chalkboard made of ego. Smile, everyone. The HOA retreat is officially underway, she bellowed, arms lifted in triumph like she just discovered America. There she was, Karen, the bane of the rich, obese, pinched-faced, draped in a wide-brimmed sun hat and sunglasses the size of dinner plates, sitting smugly at the front of a party pontoon, cruising my lake like she owned it. Behind her, 4 other board members, all sipping boxed wine and pointing at things on my land like it was a real estate showcase. One guy even threw birdseed at a hawk. I blinked. They weren't just trespassing. They were celebrating it. Now, for context, I don't live in their HOA, never did. I inherited this land from my uncle, who built the lake as part of a runoff management system tied to an old mining easement. Every summer, I drain and clean it for safety, especially before storm season, because the runoff leaves dangerous debris. Not to mention, I line the lake bed with metal spike strips to deter ATV thieves. And yes, there are signs, big ones, dozens, in red paint, all along the shore. Private property. Lake drains regularly. Entry at your own risk. But Karen? She doesn't read signs. She declares things. So there she was, anchored in the middle of a shrinking lake basin, oblivious to the slow hiss of drainage pumps and the subtle lowering of water around her. And then the first scrape. A deep, metallic esserie followed by a thud. Something had caught beneath the hull. I knew that sound. It was the top layer of the spike lattice. Karen stood up and barked. Why did we stop moving? The driver shrugged, leaned over the edge, and paled. Oh, there's something underneath us. Cue panic. I walked to the end of the dock, waving. Good morning. Beautiful day for a lawsuit, isn't it? I called. Karen turned like a whale, sensing a harpoon. You, she shrieked. What did you do to the lake? I held up my permit folder. State approved drainage maintenance. Signed by County Hydrology. Been doing it for 9 years. Check the posted schedule. She flushed purple. You sabotaged us. No, ma'am, I smiled. You sabotaged yourselves when you broke into a locked boat gate and launched from a private dock. But let's be clear, this whole lake, it's mine. Not HOA, not public. And sure as hell not your personal wine bar. That's when her tone changed. She flipped from furious to desperate faster than I could have imagined. There are nails. You're endangering lives. Correction, I said. There are spike deterrents to stop poachers and vandals. And they're well below surface unless, of course, someone tries to boat during a restricted drainage cycle. Twist number 1? The boat's hull wasn't just scraped, it was punctured. Water started rushing into the lower deck. Fast. Twist number 2? Karen had rented the pontoon under her HOA's name, using association funds without board approval. And I had the proof. See, one of the HOA members on board, a guy named Dean, he wasn't just some yes-man sipping Chardonnay. He was a whistleblower. The night before, he sent me an anonymous tip that Karen was planning to commandeer the lake for a summer surprise bonding cruise to get ahead in the next HOA election. He sent screenshots, the receipt, the HOA's debit card log, and a text from Karen that read, "He can't stop us. He's just some recluse with a muddy pond." A recluse with a 4K drone? Karen. As I watched the back of the pontoon begin to list sideways, I dialed the sheriff's office. Yes, I'd like to report a trespass and unauthorized watercraft launch. There's also potential environmental damage from a leaking vessel. Oh, and they might need extraction. They're sitting directly above rusted metal debris in a drained basin. By the time officers arrived, Karen was knee-deep in silted water, screaming into her phone and trying to hold her purse above her head like it was the Ark of the Covenant. The other board members had abandoned ship and were slogging to shore, soaked and silent. Karen refused to leave. She stood planted in the center of the boat, which now sat fully grounded in muck, still yelling legal threats while holding her broken wedge heel like a sword. And then another twist. The boat rental company pulled up in their truck with a tow line and an invoice. The driver walked over, took one look at the scene, and said, "You're paying for all of this. It's already coming out of your deposit. We're talking thousands." Karen gasped. "I used the HOA card. That's your problem." "Not anymore." Dean stepped forward, soaking wet, but grinning like a raccoon in a melon patch. "Actually, Karen," he said, "we voted this morning. You're no longer treasurer, or president, or even on the board." And just like that, she slipped. One wild arm wave too far, and she pitched backward into the sludge, landing with a splat that silenced the entire lake. Sunglasses gone, hot floating, purse half submerged beside her like a wounded soldier. She sat up, hair plastered to her face, nostrils flaring, too stunned to scream. And that was the moment the sheriff deputy clicked his pen and said, "Ma'am, you're under investigation for misappropriation of community funds, criminal trespass, and environmental endangerment." Karen was escorted off the property that same afternoon. Not with handcuffs, but under police supervision, shivering and covered in silt while trying to salvage what little dignity she had left. Her purse squelched every time she took a step, and every HOA member she passed looked away in embarrassment. Not pity, just deep, secondhand shame. The pontoon, towed out in pieces. The spikes? Intact, untouched by law, they were legally permitted. I provided documentation, photos, even seasonal inspection records going back 5 years. But the real cherry on top? Karen's HOA credit card had been used to pay for not just the boat, but a catering deposit for a luxury lakeside dinner at a property she didn't own. The caterer showed up late just in time to see police on scene and pack up without unloading a single plate of shrimp skewers. The county launched a full investigation. Turns out, Karen had been rerouting minor HOA fees for events that never happened, using just enough vague line items to keep suspicion down. It took less than a week for auditors to expose over $18,000 in misused funds. Her bank accounts were frozen. Her position in the HOA was formally terminated. She was hit with criminal charges: felony misuse of funds, trespassing, and filing a false land claim. But the best part wasn't the legal consequences. It was the neighborhood's reaction. People who'd been too scared to speak up before started stepping forward. One by one, they shared their own Karen horror stories. Fines for shade umbrellas. Complaints about their kids playing music too loudly at 4 p.m. Accusations about backyard gardens being too messy. One neighbor, Miss Tilly, 83 years old and legally blind, told the paper how Karen once fined her for unauthorized lawn decor after she planted marigold around her mailbox. That HOA debt. The residents voted unanimously to dissolve it and form a co-op, instead shared maintenance, voluntary contribution, and 0 positions of absolute power. Dean helped set it up. I donated land access for emergency services. And my lake? Protected, regulated, and officially renamed on the community map. Jack's Lake. My nephew Jack, who helped me install the new signage, painted the final board himself. It reads, "This is private land. If you see Karen, turn around." Last I heard, Karen moved to a condo 3 counties away. No HOA, no lake, no power. And the rest of us? We fish, we garden, we live, quietly, freely, and with a fresh understanding of just how fast control turns to chaos when it's built on lies. So I'll leave you with this. When someone steals from a community just to feel powerful, is it ever really power? The end.